Hello everybody, my name is Jonathan. I'm an instructor here at Treehouse, and today we're going to talk about Visual Studio Code extensions. Super excited that everyone's joining me here today, and I hope everyone is doing well and that they're safe. And before we get started, here is the Treehouse Live notification page. Here's the URL, join.teamtreehouse.com/treehouse-live. And Karen is the moderator today. She's super cool, so just feel free to reach out if you have any questions as we go through the live stream. So what is in store for today? Let's take a look. This is the GitHub repo, and Karen will put the link in the description, in the comments here for everybody. There's no sound. Let's see if I can figure out what's happening with the sound. Can everybody hear me okay? Let's see if I can figure this out. Okay, I have sound. It looks like it's coming in through my end, so I'm going to keep going. If you can't hear me, please let me know, and I'll take another look and see what's happening. Everything looks good on my end. Okay, so moving on to the extensions. I have all of the Visual Studio Code extensions listed here. I'm not going to go through them. I'm just going to point them out. And let me check in to see if everybody can hear my sound. Okay, seems like the sound is working okay. Thanks for your patience. I'm going to continue, and let's get back to the extensions we're going to check out for today. Bracket Pair Colorizer is a great plugin, and we'll talk a little bit about that. This is going to be the easiest one to talk about because it's a no-brainer. It's super convenient. If you're trying to debug your code and you don't know which bracket belongs to which bracket, well, pairing them with color seems to be a win. So definitely check that out. The rest of the plugins we're not going to really go into. I just wanted to share which plugins I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to ask a question too, right? So which one of these plugins do you want to check out in the upcoming live stream? I'm definitely going to talk about PHP debug and Xdebug and how to get that set up with Visual Studio Code. But today we're going to focus on REST Client by Huachao Mao. Let me go to the page here so we can take a look at this. I really enjoy this plugin a lot. If you're used to Postman and testing APIs and endpoints using Postman, I definitely think you should give this a try. We'll check it out today, and yeah, I'd love to hear what you think about the difference between Postman and REST Client. I'm a big fan of REST Client, and I think you will be too after this live stream. All right. So not related to PHP, but important because PHP developers always, especially for the web, have to work with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So as far as Vue and JavaScript are concerned, these are the code snippets that I recommend. Definitely check those out. And again, if you want to hear, if you want to learn more about these plugins, just go ahead and ask a question and say which plugins, just mention which plugins you're interested in. Okay, so moving on. So basically we're going to talk about Build a REST API with Laravel, which is a course that I am currently working on right now in the home studio, since we're now shooting videos from home on Treehouse. And that's going to be the first one from home coming out. So I thought this was a great opportunity to use that application so that you can check it out, but also so that we can test out REST Client and compare it to Postman. I'm going to take a sip of tea in my Treehouse cup. Whoa, look at that. It looks like green screen or something's going on there. And we'll get started. All right. So we're going to talk about this project. So if you take the Laravel Basics course, this is the project that you would complete. and it's using an API to create these images from Unsplash. So if you want to check this out, I would go to source.unsplash and check out, I think it's .com, and check out their API where you can use APIs with keywords. So if you notice, this API is only calling cat images. If I click on this one, this is going to be dog images. And this one is a combination, I believe. Yeah, there's one cat. Okay, so let me close these off. And this is the project that uses an API, and this is build a REST API with Laravel. This is the welcome default view that you find when you spin up a Laravel project. I think we have a question coming up. Let's see. Okay, no question. But definitely, if you're watching and you have a question about Visual Studio Code extensions, any of these that you're curious about, let me know which one you're interested in for next week. Or not next week, next time. And if you want to know when we're going to have live streams, check out this website and click on Get Notified. Okay, so moving on to the REST API. So with this API, before we get into REST Client, we're going to just check out each one of these. So if I click on author, there's the author, but you know, this is basically it returns JSON, which is common for an API, but it's really hard to read, right? So let me close this and show you how we can make this easier to navigate. If you click on this JSON Formatter extension, and we just add it to Brave, which is basically a Chrome format, much easier to read, correct? So if you click on raw, that's what it looked like before, and that's what it looks like afterwards. So I highly recommend that for testing. Going back to the REST API, if you click on books, here are all the books of the authors. So we're covering polymorphic relationships using Eloquent, and we're using has many, belongs to, polymorphic relationships. And so I'm going to close this and this, and we'll get started with REST client over here. So if you wanted to find this client, you would just basically click on this icon here, and the shortcut is Shift Command X. So let me go ahead and close that so we have a little bit more room. And this is the actual plugin. If you were to search for that, you'd click on install right here, which I already have it installed. And you can read more about this awesome plugin, and it shows you some examples like a post request and such. Okay, so how do we get started? All you have to do is create an HTTP file or a .rest file and just start adding some requests. It could be as simple as I'm working on localhost, so this URL, let's go back to that. So if I click on authors again, it's basically this URL, right? API/authors, and I'm in port 8000 on localhost. So by just entering this and clicking, well, you have to save it first and then hit send request. This sort of just pops up, and there you go. So we've tested the endpoints for API/authors, and this is what we get back. We currently have only 3 authors, but you can also search for one author. So let's say this author right here should have an author ID of 1. So if I wanted to search for that author, I would just hit 1, save that file, and click on send request. And there we go. We have the first author and not all authors. Okay, so that's a little bit about that has many relationship. Well, the has many actually is for books. So let me show you that. All we'd have to do to test that is books, like this. Save the file and click on books. And you can see here, now these are all of the books, and this is where the Eloquent relationship comes into play. We have an author that has books, and they may have more than one book, so it has many books. So that's how you would test that. Let's try the books, and we can also select a specific book. Let me save that and try it again. And there we go. So we get the book with an ID of 1. And then it shows you who that author is, right? All right. So anybody have any questions about REST client versus Postman? Do you like REST client more than Postman? I'm a big fan because you can just save this file and just go through and test out a bunch of things. So let me show you how I would do that. I'll close this down. And here I have some comments all laid out so that I can look at all of my tests, or so I can test my routes and endpoints really easily. So let's check this out. If I wanted to delete an author, right? Let's see if that even works. Let's click this. And this is successful because we returned a 204 of no content, meaning that if we search for that author, we won't get an author. Let's go ahead and try this out by looking at the UI. If I refresh this, now you're going to see there's only 2 authors. So that works pretty good. And it's very explicit, so you can tell exactly what's happening here. Let's see what else we have here. Cool, let's try a post request. Now you'll notice that these fields are empty. And if we enter, or we try to submit a post request with empty fields, let's see what happens. And you're going to see that we're getting some validation coming back here. That has to do more with the course than it does the client, you know, REST client or the extension. So I'm just going to add title here. And I work for Treehouse. And my email is email@email. Cool, so let's try our first post request and see what happens. Let me give you some more screen real estate here. Cool. So first post request. Okay, so now we have a new author that was just created. And 201 created is our HTTP status code, which is successful, and that's the correct code as expected. Going back to our authors, if I reload this page, so now I am the 3rd author, but this is not going to be ID 3, I'm pretty sure. Let's test that out. And there's no ID 3 because we deleted that ID. Now if I go to ID number 2, that still works because we haven't deleted that author. All right. What else do we have? So here we have Gil. And how about if we try to do a put request for the first author? So let's explain what's going to happen here. So this is the first author. Let me turn this back on. So this is the first author with an ID of 1. We could use Tinker to verify this. So let's go ahead and do that. If you're not sure, right? For example, I'm not sure what my ID is for this entry, but let's check it out with Tinker, right? PHP Artisan, Tinker. And we're going to look at authors. And since we only have 3, we can just do all like this. And I am ID 4, which makes sense, right? We deleted 3, so we have ID 1, ID 2, and ID 4. Totally makes sense. Okay, so everything's working. Let me close this down. We now know, let's say if I wanted to replace author number 1 with a put method. Okay, so let's try that out. Moment of truth. Perfect. 201 created. So that HTTP status code is correct. Let me move this out of the way so you can see all of the code. And we'll move over to our authors page. And now you see that author changed. Now we have Gil. Okay. It's working really well. So this is why I like REST client. I find it a lot easier to navigate this sort of user interface as opposed to Postman. There, maybe there are some edge cases where you need Postman for something specific, and maybe REST client can't do that. But as you saw me do just today, I went through all of problem testing my endpoints here. So let's see if we can add a new book. So in this case, since we're using polymorphic relationships, this book, author ID, has many books. So we can add another book. So let's say we'll give this book to, Gil. He is the first one, the first author. So if I hit send request, what's going to happen? So it's going to change the title. It's going to create a title, a book with a title of my new title. And this is the excerpt or the abstract. And it's going to attach that to the user ID of 1. Method not allowed. Okay, let's try to figure that out. Why? Gil is the first author. Oh, that's this. Oh, because it says post. It should have said, okay, cool. Now if we try put, well, actually I'm trying to do a post request and then a put request. So let's try, oh yeah. So this is, let's see if I can do this since he's, oh, so let me explain. I think I figured it out. So it's an existing author. So it might say something here in the error. It's not supported. Let's try another one. Okay, that one worked. 200 OK is our HTTP status code. And you see that we have the author. And for ID number 2, let's check that out. Charlotte is ID number 2. And now she has a new book, which is my new book title. So that's just it's not dummy text. And you notice, if you notice, by going, let me close this so you can see more. I'll go to the books API or the books route endpoint. And you can see that all of this data here, for example, the abstract is created by Faker, which is a library that is part of Laravel. So all of this stuff is created with our factories in Laravel. So this is not part of REST client, which is here, but it's part of how it works. So we can find that new book probably at the end. Yep, here it is. Okay, so we're able to test, and we can do a put request too, and to update this title. Let's say we misspelled the title, or it's a new title. We can change that too. All right, so we're pretty much at time. Thank you for joining me. It's been a lot of fun talking about REST client, and I hope you score codes. And let's see what else we have here. Be sure to sign up at Treehouse Live for notifications to find out when we're going to be doing live streams moving forward. As always, happy coding.